Greetings, my peoples. Cheers. And welcome to this week's episode of Vinyl Douche ASMR. Picking up some neighbors outside. Alright. Sounds like they're saying goodbye. Okay. Alright, welcome to this week's episode. Thank you for stopping by. If you like this kind of thing, give me a like, give me a follow, and if not, just sit back and relax. This week's episode is Simon Garfunkel's Bridge Over Troubled Water, which came out in 1970. And this was the fifth and final album for Simon and Garfunkel. We've actually done one Paul Simon on this channel, but I've got a lot of Simon and Garfunkel. I think I have most of them except for The Graduate. And I think I might have said this in the Paul Simon video, but I just think Simon Garfunkel's what like turntables were made for. Music, you know, when I think about like, okay, I'm gonna have a record collection, it's like I think about people, you know, would have Simon and Garfunkel. So, you know, things like this, things like Tapestry, things like you know, Fleetwood Mac, Rumors, Michael Jackson's Thriller, just records that I just sort of maybe remember everyone having, or just have a gut feeling that everyone had. But everyone might have had this, because this is definitely one of the best selling albums of all time. It did well when it came out. We'll get into the sort of last album thing between Simon and Garfunkel and a few, but this album was it received 6 Grammy Awards in 1971, including Album of the Year, and it sold 25 million copies worldwide. So yeah, it did its thing. It's number 172 on Rolling Stone's list of 500 greatest albums of all time. And yeah, so this is an iconic album. And this particular album was for Julie. Garfunkel took an acting gig to work in the movie Catch-22 during, I guess, before production of the album, and Paul Simon wrote the rest of the songs, or all the songs except for Bye Bye Love, which was Everly Brothers song. I think basically what it sounds like is that Paul Simon did most of the footwork for this, and I don't see anything explicitly that says that's, I guess maybe caught feelings, and that's why they broke up. But after this, they both became, a lot more independent artists. Garfunkel did more acting, and Paul Simon started a solo career, did some teaching. And their last performance together, before I think they've appeared on stage since then, but their last official sort of performance together as a functioning group was in Forest Hills Stadium in 1970. That's a place I've been to many times actually, but unfortunately never see Simon and Garfunkel, and never will. It was recorded at Columbia Studios, B&E specifically, in New York City, and CBS Columbus Square in Los Angeles and Columbus Studio in Nashville. And this is definitely a folk album. These guys define folk, at least to me. And just, to me, some of the most laid back and also just emotional kind of music you can just sort of chill to. Really like this stuff, and I really like the fact that it's local. Comes from, you know, my hometown here in New York City, and it's interesting that such sort of, I feel, peaceful music comes from a place like NYC, baby. I think that's all I can say about the sort of lore around it. But let's talk about who played on the album. Of course, you have Paul Simon, who was the lead vocalist, acoustic guitar, percussion, and the producer. Art Garfunkel, he was on vocals, percussion, and he was also a producer. Fred Cartel Jr. is on guitar. We got Hale Blaine on drums, Joe Osborne on bass guitar, Larry Netchell on piano, Jimmy Haskell and Ernie Freeman on strings, Los Incas on Peruvian instruments. I think I know which song that is. Bob Moore on the double bass, the tuba on the boxer, Pete Drake, dobro, pedal steel guitar, Charlie McCoy on bass, he's bass harmonica on the boxer, John Fats, Randy Brecker, Lou Soloff, and Alan Rubin all on brass. And Roy Haley was the engineer and the co-producer. And Roy Haley is cited as someone who helped this album have the sort of similar sound that Bookends, you know, had before, sort of a sonic throughway. So yeah, let's look inside. I think I don't like this. It's like too thin. Alright. May keep this thing, but I'm changing the dust jacket. Alright, Simon and Garfunkel were big. They were definitely beloved. Like in the late 60s, early 70s for a breakup. Thank you for convincing me. Alright. Okay, on side one we have Bridge Over Troubled Water, title track. Side two is El Condor. Those are the, it's about this Peruvian influence, and I think that's those musicians I mentioned before. That's a song they're in. 3 is Cecilia. It's a huge hit for them. 4 is Keep the Customer Satisfied, and 5 is So Long, Frank Lloyd Wright. That's side 1. And side 2 we have The Boxer, which is a classic. Number 2 is Baby Driver. 3 is The Only Living Boy in New York. Number 4 is Why Don't You Write Me? And number 5 is Bye Bye Love. And number 6 is Song for the Asking. I mentioned them sort of being peaceful, but songs like Bye Bye Love and Cecilia, those are bops. Those aren't laid back folk songs. Work. Yeah. Alright. That's okay. Oof. That's less okay. Alright, let's fix that. The whole side. So I just discovered that the cover was shot by a photographer called Peter Powell, and the the cover is supposed to reflect their complex, strained relationship at the time. So yeah, there you go. It's, all signs pointing towards the last album. All right. street style photography as it was. Definitely, I think one of the coolest album covers. I think my favorite of theirs for sure. Okay, that looks better. Okay, alright everyone, that is it. 1970s Simon Garfunkel Bridge over Troubled Water, the last stand of Simon Garfunkel. For Julie. Thanks for watching. See you next week.